Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. I am Thomas from the Customer Development Team at 3D Organon. We're so happy to have you with us here for today's session of the Immersive Education webinar titled A Student's Heaven, Using Virtual Reality in Undergraduate Nursing Bioscience at Murdoch University's new Digital Immersive Lab. This session is powered by 3D Organon, and it is kindly hosted by Martin Hill and Barbara Loessl from Murdoch University's School of Nursing. Let me briefly introduce our wonderful speakers to you. Martin Hill is a learning technologist specializing in immersive and collaborative learning technologies. With over 30 years of experience in managing campus-wide lectures and clinical capture systems, he now leads Murdoch University's Digital Immersive Lab, a VR and mixed reality rich environment which is designed to revolutionize learning experiences. Barbara Loessl is a lecturer in biosciences with more than 12 years of university teaching experience. She specializes in anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, and pathophysiology. Barbara is deeply passionate about experiential learning, designing interactive lab experiments and VR simulations that suit diverse learning styles and encourage peer teaching. Her research focuses on integrating VR simulation into nursing education to create truly engaging and effective learning environments. Together, they will showcase how they developed and actively use Murdoch University's cutting-edge Digital Immersive Lab, otherwise known as DigiLab, an innovative space filled with VR stations designed to transform education. Martin, Barbara, thank you very much for being here today. We're very excited to see your presentation. When you are ready, feel free to proceed.
Well, thank you very much, Thomas. And well, for us, it's good evening, everyone. I don't know which time zones you're in, so good day, as we say here in Australia. We're excited to present what we're doing here at Murdoch University. I'm Barbara, this is Martin, and we are just sharing our screen. Did you make sure that it had the...
Yep.
Okay. We just need to make sure we've got the audio and video as well. Like Thomas said, we will present some of the research that we've been doing here in nursing with using the Organon software. But we will also show you our DigiLab and the software, and the use cases that some other use cases that we use here at Murdoch. So we start with a brief background, about 5 minutes, and then go into the use cases that we have here. We're not quite sure how familiar the audience is with the actual software, so we thought we'd just give you a 5-minute demonstration of it so you get an idea of how we're using it. Then I will introduce our nursing project, and then we've got time for questions and comments and a discussion. So here you can see the DigiLab. We're actually sitting at the moment in the DigiLab, and later on when Martin does the demonstration of the software, you can actually see the DigiLab as well. Again, I'm not quite sure how familiar people are with terminology. So what is virtual reality? Well, it's actually mixed reality. You can see it's on a continuum from the real environment all the way to a fully immersed, fully computer-generated environment, which is really what we call the virtual reality. And in between, we have the augmented reality, where we basically have the natural environment and we overlay that with some virtual elements. So it is computer generated, it's three-dimensional, it's obviously interactive, so you can interact with the environment and the objects in there, and for that you have to wear a headset. You can either use controllers or you can, in some instances, also use your hands as the controllers.
Okay, so this is the hardware and venues that we have at Murdoch University here in Perth, Western Australia. As you can see, this cabinet is our headset cabinet in the DigiLab itself, where we have 22 MetaQuest 3 headsets, a dozen Microsoft HoloLens 2s, and we've got an Apple Vision Pro that we're evaluating as a replacement for the HoloLenses, with other headsets in the running as well. But we've also now equipped the Creative Workshop next door with another dozen MetaQuest headsets due to the huge demand for our immersive sessions and so on. We've got another lab down in Mandurah set up, used for nursing, again, mostly running 3D Organon. Our School of IT has a lot of headsets and they do development work using those headsets as well, engineering, and just recently we've had 10 MetaQuests approved for our WA Cricket Stadium in a joint sport and business diploma that will use 3D Organon with the state cricket team and others. And our Singapore campus is also heading that way. And then we have many other headsets scattered across campus as well. So the big question often is why go for immersive XR or extended reality? There is the criticism that sometimes it's just because it's all shiny and a nice novelty. There's a little bit of truth to that. It can be an exciting new sort of experience for students that helps to with their student engagement and so on. But we've really found that there are a lot of compelling use cases, and certainly with nursing, as Barbara will describe as we go through, we've found it to be very compelling in terms of all sorts of scenarios for teaching students and keeping them actually engaged. And we've also found that it's really reinvigorated staff in their teaching. Instead of doing the same old with PowerPoints and textbooks and all the rest of it, adding this sort of variety adds a real spice to life, if you like, and helps to target those students who have different ways of learning.
Okay, when you use augmented or virtual reality in teaching, there are obviously certain learning theories that underlie it and that you could apply to VR or extended reality in general. So the first one is situated learning, which sometimes is described as learning like an apprentice. So it means you just copy something that you see, you copy actions, which is of course really relevant when it comes to skills for nursing, for example. Implicit learning is something where you learn without actually realizing that you're learning. So you might move within the VR simulation, you might do certain things, and you don't realize that you're learning, but you're actually acquiring a skill, or you go through a specific procedure, let's say resuscitation. Constructivism, of course, has always been around for quite a while in teaching and learning, where we say the learners have to be engaged, they have to participate in the learning, they're not passive, they're actually active. Then there is also Bandura's social cognitive theory, which talks about the fact that we have these mirror neurons. So if we watch someone doing something, the brain actually perceives that as if we were doing it ourselves, and that's how you learn. So you can watch something, it's as good as doing it, and both of those elements come into when you're using VR. Experiential learning is the one that I'm particularly interested in. It's got like a cycle where you start off with the actual experience, the learning experience, then the learner reflects on what they've done, they start to conceptualize it, compare it, consolidate it with previous learning, and eventually they can experiment with using what they've learned. Now, connectivism is one of the newer learning theories, particularly now in the age of using a lot of digital technology in teaching and learning. And it really means that now our knowledge is not just inside the teacher and the learner, it's actually outside very much as well. And we all contribute to that body of knowledge, both the students and the teaching staff. Okay.
So actually, if I jump back here, that photo is actually of our Mandurah lab. And as you can see, it's a more traditional computer lab, just with lots of standard computer screens at every table. But we managed to cram our virtual reality sessions into those spaces as well. This venue is down for refurbishment in the future to be more VR specific. But we're also using computer labs here on campus. This is one of our rooms nearby where we're running sessions with a bit more floor space. And in this case with some of our many school groups who come in for external experiences and that sort of thing. Just in terms of the number of use cases, we use well over 25 different virtual reality and mixed reality applications. 3D Organon is definitely our biggest one, with 470 odd first year nursing students using it 3 times a semester across multiple venues. But we're also using it with, as you can see, forensics, with the cattle VR is used for agriculture and veterinary, virtual speech, soft skills, and a whole range of other ones that you can see listed there. So we're not a one-trick pony by any means. We've really expanded the scope across multiple disciplines across campus, and that's really helped us to get full worth for our investment, because this DigiLab is worth over $1 million Australian, heading towards $1 million US or euros. So it's great to see that it's proving its worth.
Not a white elephant.
Exactly. And that was a bit of a fear originally. So this is some of our veterinary science and agriculture students. And as you can see here, I'll just mute the audio. So this is the DigiLab in action. As you can see, we've got big screens all the way around the rooms so that the instructors can see what the students are seeing on the big screens and interact with the students as they're doing things. So everyone's not in their own little world, but instead it's a much more interactive session. And lots of floor space, high-end computers for those situations where we want to run PC VR applications that need all the horsepower of the desktop computers. Each of those computers is about 10,000 Australian. And as you can see, lots of enjoyment had by all using all of our applications. Another example is virtual speech that we use across dozens of different units, including business, media and communications, law, engineering, nursing, psychology, etc. And this is an example of some of those students using it in a Shark Tank type of simulation where they have to sell a business idea and so on. And again, as you can see, we can see what the students are seeing through their headsets, and the instructors, like Werner there, are able to interact with them and make it that much more of an all-together exercise rather than a very individualistic one. So that's one reason we really like the DigiLab environment. Another example is Forensic XR, an application that we've partnered with a developer on the east coast of Australia. And this basically allows us to simulate virtual crime scenes in the DigiLab. And here we actually have the WA Police Force forensic team and the Australian Federal Police taking advantage of our facility, trialling this particular application, and quite powerful use case in this instance. Instead of having to set up real crime, sort of dummies and fake blood and all the rest of it, you can have a whole class doing things. So this just gives you a bit of an idea of the volume, the sheer volume of sessions that we're running. We've run over 700 sessions in the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, that we've had this facility and the growing number of other venues on campus. Just this year alone, we've got over 177 sessions scheduled for just class usage. But then we also do a lot of external group sessions with school groups, as I mentioned, and other universities and VIPs and so on, and outreach and so on. And each year, the numbers just keep climbing. As you can see, the 2025 figures are just for, obviously not the whole year, and they're already past the total for last year. So that's why we've gone and expanded to so many additional venues, as you can see here. This is an example of one of our classrooms upstairs in this particular building, where we have computers at every desk, and this is an external school group in this case using an application there. And as a result of the successes, we've won quite a few awards. Barbara and I together have won a Teaching Excellence Award for our work with VR in nursing biosciences using 3D Organon, and Vice Chancellor's Awards and so on as well for the DigiLab. This is one of the additional venues, the creative workshop next door, and like the DigiLab, as you can see, there are big screens around the walls. So again, we can in that venue see what the students are seeing when they're using the headsets. And again, there's lots of floor space to move around in those environments and so on.
Yeah, and you can appreciate with about 470 students enrolled, we have a lot of tutorial groups that we need to run through. So that's why we need a lot of spaces that we can book, and we need a lot of tech support as well. So it's a very challenging situation logistics-wise, and it's been evolving over the last, we've been doing this for 3 years now. Initially, it was very difficult because we didn't have that many headsets. We had to transport them between the campuses. So yeah, it was quite a journey, has been a journey, and still is. So Martin is now going to demonstrate the Organon application, how we use it in nursing. So the students buddy up. They usually work in pairs. They get very prescribed tasks that they have to do. And some of the main things that we use is, so when you go into the simulation, you've got models that you can pick from. So you can see on that board next where Martin's just pointing, you can pick different systems. You can add them to the original skeleton. You can take them away. You can click on certain structures, and you can also go inside the structures, which always excites the students a lot. And that is really also what helps with that learning or understanding the 3D concept or the 3D situation in the body. When you click on specific structures, another board pops up, as you can see now, which allows you to see cadaver images of that specific structure. You can see, you can have it pronounced as well, so you can listen to what it sounds like, the terminology. You can see definitions. You can see diseases as well that pertain to that specific body system. So that is one way. So you can go all the way from the skin down to the skeleton. Another option is that you actually go into more microscopic, smaller images. And those are really useful, particularly for very complex structures that students struggle with understanding. So this is the inner ear, for example. The inner ear is something that students really, really struggle with. They can't quite understand how it's embedded in the skull, how all those different structures work together. You know, where does the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear, where are the borders, and so on. So this is very useful. There's quite a few features in that microscopic space, as you can see there. And another one that's really great is actions. So that's where you can go from anatomy more into physiology. So here, for example, we have the heart, the beating heart, and you can see beautifully all the different vessels that come into the heart and leave the heart. You can see the different valves. You can see the different chambers of the heart. And you can see the contractions, so, you know, the atria start before the ventricles. And that is really useful for students to revise, for example, how the blood flows through the heart and how we have the pulmonary and systemic circulation. So that's just a brief demonstration. Martin, is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I might, while I'm up here looking around the DigiLab, just show you the cabinet with all of our VR headsets and a whole lot of Lego robotics used by engineering, and obviously the PCs at every table. And with this venue, we have the ability to actually call up whatever is happening on any of the individual tables, so we can put their content onto the big screen from any of the tables. So if students are working on a computer at any of those tables, they can choose, use a touch panel on those tables, which computer will be displayed on the big screen, and then have that displayed up and shared to anyone who's tuned in remotely as well. So the room is set up for beautiful hybrid teaching scenarios as well as face-to-face. Okay.
All right, we just have to swap back to our presentation.
And let's just do that there. Okay.
Okay, so I will now tell you a little bit more about what we're doing in nursing. So again, you can see the DigiLab here with some of our nursing students. And this is now a little video clip that I will play to you so you can see how our nursing students are in action here. I might just turn the sound off so I can explain a few more things. So like we said, we pair them up. They have worksheets with, as you can see here, with specific questions that they have to run through. They swap backwards and forwards with the headset and the controllers. Sometimes students, of course, suffer from cyber sickness. If you're not used to wearing these headsets, if you haven't done that for quite a bit, initially you might get dizzy, you might feel nauseous, you might feel disoriented. Women are more affected, and of course in nursing we have, the majority are women, so we have only about 20% are males. And it's quite an issue sometimes with the cyber sickness. So we have actually decided that next year we will try more desktop versions of Organon. So for those students who don't tolerate the VR at all, we can then offer them the desktop versions of it.
Although normally it's only maybe one or two in a session who find it a little bit unsettling. Certainly the modern headsets with their large, high frame rates and the ability to see the room in the background means that, like when you're on a boat, you can see the horizon and your eyes agree with your inner ear. So that can be helpful.
Yeah. So we've been using the VR for both instruction, but also we will trial some more of the quiz options that you have in there with Examverse, which is part of the Organon software now. The other option that you have, and we've tried that this semester, but we were down in Mandurah, which is our other campus, and the facilities are not as good, so we didn't have the bandwidth. It's called Medverse, where you actually have the opportunity to become, like, as an avatar, as the instructor, you're an avatar in the environment, and all the students can join in that same session as avatars as well, and we can together explore the different models. I think that is a very powerful way of using the software, but we still need to work on that, how we best use it, and probably try it in the DigiLab next time. Okay, I might move on because we've seen quite a bit here.
Yeah, and one nice thing that we've experienced in a few of our sessions, at the end of a 3D Organon session, we've said, okay, time's up, and we've had the class go, oh, which is exactly what you want to hear from students.
Yes.
So it's encouraging that there is that sort of enthusiasm.
Yes. So the question is, why did I start using it in the biosciences? Well, I was fairly new to VR myself. I actually experienced it the first time when I was stuck in Germany during COVID and I had to find another job, and I worked at a little university in the Black Forest where they had research teams that we always buddied up, like nursing staff buddied up with IT staff to research different technologies in, well, broadly speaking, in nursing care. And we were looking at, my team was looking at using VR in teaching skills, complex skills to nursing students. And that was my first exposure to VR. And then I came back here and discovered the beautiful DigiLab and Organon already loaded onto our headsets. And I was like, fantastic, now I can start using it in the biosciences. Because the problem with the biosciences is they're very important units, or it's very important content, anatomy, physiology, for nurses, because it's the basis for assessing patients, it's the basis for recognizing deteriorating patients. So if you want to be a safe nurse, you have to have a very good science background. But a lot of students really struggle with it. Nursing students call themselves hands-on learners, so they find it really difficult to cope with that theory. There are high fail rates. Students do struggle with the content because there's a lot of it, and we don't get a lot of time allocated, not as much as I would like, and also a lot of the students would like more time. They also struggle with, some aspects of nursing where we're looking at holistic, it's more a social science kind of thing, whereas of course with the sciences that is hard facts, and students really struggle with that. They often don't have that background from school either, so they never did science at school, or not a lot. And they struggle with understanding the relevance for the clinical practice, because science is traditionally taught in the first year and they haven't been out on clinical placements yet, so they really find it hard to figure out why they need to know this. So the literature suggests that you use as many different teaching modalities as you can to address the different learning styles. So we also have a cadaver lab here that students can go to. I do that as an optional activity. You use a lot of self-directed packages, online resources, and so on, and try and link it to the practice. So anything else you throw into the mix can only really help. And of course, VR is exciting, and fairly cost-effective in the long run. So that's why I decided to give it a try. And at the same time, I decided to research it and really look at each cohort, what's happening in each semester, collect some data to improve it and to figure out, what is actually the best way of using it within the curriculum? What are the factors that the students find beneficial, or what are some factors that are barriers to using it? How do some of those theories like connectivism and experiential learning link to the use of VR? How does it compare to some of the other teaching modalities? So Cadaver Lab, we will also test it with some drawing activities that we use in our classes. And for all of that, I use a mixed methods approach. So the students are not randomized, that they are randomized in as they enroll in different tutorials, and we can then allocate them through the different interventions. So it's like a quasi-experimental approach. We use a lot of online surveys with different questionnaires, validated questionnaires about learning satisfaction, immersion and presence, but also some relating to experiential learning. And I also run some focus groups. And eventually we will analyze all that data. So some of it has been analyzed preliminary, and I will share some of those results with you. Now, we've been doing this, like I said, from semester 1 in 2023. So semester in Australia usually starts in February. So we have the 2 semesters in the calendar year. And we have 2 units that we teach, a first semester unit and a second semester unit. First one focuses more on anatomy, second one focuses more on physiology. We've had 2 cohorts coming through in 23 and 24. Actually, now we're on to our 3rd cohort. So the first year students of 25. And initially we ran a little pilot with 218 students, and then we started embedding it into the actual normal tutorials. We continued to offer the cadaver labs, We also ran a little trial with the exercise science students, which we have on campus here. And I ran a little trial comparing the VR with the drawing this last semester. Now, I won't go into all the detail here, so don't panic. Just the main thing is that there is a very high satisfaction for all the different teaching modalities. So students love the variety, and they all have their different pros and cons. So you can see, the cadaver lab has more of an emotional impact, whereas VR, of course, has the 3D models, has that ability to visualize and really understand some of those concepts much, much better. Whereas the drawing, yes, it's more traditional, it's slower, but it helps with, because students have to copy the drawing as well, it helps with understanding step by step and also consolidating some of that information. If you look at the challenges, you can see the cadaver lab, it can be very confrontational, of course. In the VR, we've already talked about some of the cyber sickness, but of course sometimes technical issues as well. I mentioned that when we tried the Medverse, the virtual classroom, that didn't quite work. And you can see some of the main student quotes. So with VR, they really love it. It's very positively perceived. But they also do mention those physical discomforts.
The Medverse issue was mainly the poor internet connectivity, wasn't it? The Wi-Fi in that particular venue down.
So it wasn't the
south.
software. So Organon is not to blame for that. It was unfortunately that particular mode requires a lot of bandwidth, and we didn't have that on the other campus. The other campus is a lot older.
A very small one.
Very small one as well, yes. So I just wanted to illustrate how VR really is at its best when it's embedded within a curriculum using other modalities as well. It can never be a standalone teaching strategy. That wouldn't work. But together with other things, it offers aspects that the other modalities don't have. So again, I'm mentioning the 3D, but of course that immersion, that interactivity, the engagement with something that is cool and novel, that those are the really big plus points for VR. And if we integrate all of this together, then we really have better outcomes for the students and eventually for the patients. So they have a better understanding, they are more engaged. The more you repeat information in different ways, of course, that will improve your memory and recall. And of course, VR is important as well because it's technology. Nursing and the world, other professions as well, we move more and more into using technology on a daily basis, particularly now also with artificial intelligence. So we have to teach our students not to be afraid of technology. I mentioned before, we have a lot of, the majority of our students are female, and sometimes they are more reluctant using that technology. So using VR helps them to overcome some of those barriers as well and gets them ready for the profession. Are we going time-wise? We've still got a couple of minutes. Okay, so some of the qualitative results, you can see the comments here. This is actually the orange one there. It's excellent. It's like a heaven for nursing students. That was one of the quotes from the students. But you can see, some other quotes here, like I felt I was placed in a world of advanced learning, and that learning through technology was a really good idea. So the students do appreciate the fact that we put a lot of effort into this, that they have a unique experience. At the moment, no other university here in WA uses it like we do. The most common word would probably be cool. But I think the newer generations have other words as well. So one that comes to mind was mean as was one of the comments, whatever that means. So, they say the same things that I've already mentioned, the visual learning, the 3D experience, the immersion is what they find beneficial. The reinforcing of other knowledge that they got through different ways gives them a deeper understanding. It's interactive, it's hands-on. Like I said, nursing students call themselves hands-on, complements other activities really well. The minus points, some of them we mentioned already. One that I thought was really interesting was that if it's too much, so there is actually saturation, if you use it too many times, they go, no, I've had enough now, I want to do something else. And it becomes boring. And it's not for every student either. So there are some students who really say, look, I appreciate what you're doing here, what you're giving us, but it's not my thing. And that is okay as well. That's why we have to offer different things, so each student finds their way of learning.
And some of the other students saying, we need this deeply embedded in the curriculum.
Yeah, so
I want to use it every week.
Can't win, yes. So we try
Everyone's
and offer
different.
it. Yeah, so we try and offer it so that it keeps everyone happy. And that's something that we've learned over the last couple of years as well. And smaller periods within a session. So that's the last point here on that slide. If you use it for 5 or 10 minutes and then do something else and then bring it back and then do something else, it actually works much better than having a whole hour allocated to VR. So VR is brilliant for knowledge acquisition, particularly theoretical knowledge. If you look at skills, it works really well with any process or any procedure that has very prescribed and specific steps. I've mentioned the saturation, so there is a limit to how many times you should use it. And like I said, it can save resources, it can become cost effective, particularly if we go down the path where students can practice by themselves as well. But of course, it does require training of all the staff. It requires manpower, like we always buddy up. We always have a technician and the tutor in there. You need dedicated labs because otherwise the setting up is far too complicated and time consuming. You need to think about your pedagogy, just like for any other learning and teaching method. You can't just throw it there and go, yep, have fun with it. It doesn't work. A lot of students said they really would appreciate it if we gave them more time to familiarise themselves with the technology, the hardware. So that's something we will do next semester, a little bit more. And yes, it's got to be part of a whole package.
Just a little bit more on the staffing side of things. I manage the labs, but we have a whole lot of, we call them student ambassadors, who we employ part-time to come in and help set up for labs and help support during those labs as well. And then, of course, we have many academics like Barbara who have become very expert, who are able to do a lot themselves as well. But we obviously want to share.
Need him.
We
oh
want to
God.
share the load as much as we can.
Yes.
So having that pool of student help is fantastic that we spread, particularly when we're running multiple VR sessions across several venues. It's essential to have that kind of resource to take advantage of.
Yes. That's pretty much the last slide. So where do we go next? So I do want to investigate it even more, like looking at the literature. There are recommendations what we should be researching, so definitely looking more at effectiveness. So that's where maybe the quizzing might come in more with pre and post tests, looking more at the factors that make VR unique and when and how to best employ it in the curriculum. So we're going to run a large randomized study next year in the first semester, comparing VR with the cadaver lab and drawing activity. We'll probably get, we have about 450 students enrolled, but not everyone wants to participate in the research. So I'm expecting an N of about 350. And then, of course, we don't know where the technology will go in future. So what other hardware do we have? Well, we always bring a wish list to the company, and say, this is what we would like, and this is what we would like as well. So with, AI around now, of course, the software will evolve and become more sophisticated and have more different options. Haptics, of course, is an interesting one, particularly with learning skills. At the moment, with a controller, you don't have that, but there is a lot of work on that as well. So yes, any questions, comments? We might stop sharing for a while, hey, so we can see what's happening.
Well, thank you so much, Martin and Barbara, for your wonderful presentation. It was truly valuable to see your insights as to how you have comprehensively implemented softwares, different softwares like 3D Organon into your academic activities. Um, I would like to ask a question, but I just want to let the attendees know that we have a Q&A tab where you can drop your questions to Martin and Barbara. But just briefly, if you can comment, you mentioned AI, so we would like to know, out of genuine curiosity or concern, based on your personal or collective experience, what do you think may be the implications of, AI playing an important role in medical education or any other field? Do you?
Yeah, I think the one of the really big benefits is that the self-learning. So you basically have an AI tutor that can run you through different questions, and so it's therefore completely individualized and tailored how you use a specific. Let's say, we had a practice room with a few headsets that got Organon on it. If that AI tutor was part of Organon, for example, then the student could run through certain things and revise and have questions answered by the AI. Of course, it makes it easier for the programmers as well to progress in what else they can offer in a specific application. I think that is the two main things at the moment. Assessments change big time, of course, in education because of AI. So we're moving very much away from written assessments to a lot of oral assessments or assessments that we can invigilate in some way or other. So again, that's where VR could play a role. So I can set up assessments within the software, run them through that. They're in a room. It's kind of fun assessment. And I know they can't cheat in that respect. Do you have any other ideas?
Yeah, well, hearing hints that Organon might be heading in the direction of VR OSCEs and the like is very intriguing. So if that ends up happening, we'd be very keen at looking at that sort of route.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. We are continuously developing our software to improve the educator and end user experience. And of course, we will be able to inform you through our updates. There appears to be a comment in the Q&A. It says, "Thank you for sharing your experience and for being so honest with us. It's incredibly valuable to gain insights into realities of the classroom. You've given us a glimpse that's truly inspiring for our future ambitions." So the question is, how do you see yourselves moving forward?
So just from the technology side of things, we have a 2-year life cycle for all our hardware. So hence why we're getting rid of the old Microsoft HoloLenses, for instance. And we recently upgraded the old Vive headsets that we had to these new Quest 3s. So we're continually staying at the close to the leading edge technology-wise as we can, since things are rapidly changing. Software-wise, we're of course keeping an ear close to the ground with all the options out there as they grow, and seeing what use cases can be implemented using those new technologies and so on. So certainly one of my roles is to do that kind of research and be aware of all the latest and greatest to see how we can bring that into the classroom, into the DigiLab and all of our different units and so on, and do a little bit of sort of evangelism, tech evangelism on campus to encourage different disciplines to take it up, because it is expensive, particularly when you've got a really high-tech venue like this. When we first built it, we wondered, we were sort of it was a bit of a build it and they will come kind of scenario, hoping that that there would be utility in it. idea that there might be a bit of a white elephant, but that's definitely proved to not be the case.
I think from the nursing point of view, we're starting a new curriculum next year, and we have many units that will use VR. So we have dedicated VR sessions for a lot of units that we've embedded in that curriculum. Goes all the way from Organon to clinical scenarios and communication training, because it really adds that other dimension to it. And there are some plans for a new buildings on campus for all the health profession courses to share. And my wish list was that, yes, I want a couple of practice rooms where we have headsets available and students can come and use them. It's always an equity issue as well. You can't ask students to buy headsets. That would not be fair, because we have a lot of students from low socioeconomic backgrounds. They wouldn't be able to do that, or a lot of international students who have to pay fees. They can't afford to buy a headset. So you have to be very careful that it's equitable as well, and that it suits the different learning styles. But there is more and more software out there, and it's exciting to see how you can use it, how you can embed it, what the students are doing with it. I think it's really important to always investigate it while you're using it. Don't just use it, find out what the students want, find out what the effectiveness actually is, because only that way can we, as the people who use it, the educators, and you as the companies, that's how we can evolve, and that's how we can make, we can create packages that actually work. They're not just cool and great and groovy and what have you, but they really work. They bring benefit to the students.
Yes, of course. We're always more than happy to offer all of our assistance to the institutions that we collaborate with. Thank you for clarifying this information for us. We have another question from Heidi Borrias. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So there are three questions. The first question is, how long did it take to train your faculty to use the headsets, the visors with the software?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, I knew a little bit already, so that wasn't too bad. And the tutors would just come along, and Martin usually runs a little introduction session, and they would just play around with it for a while. Because we have, and then they get used to it, and some, quicker than others. Likewise, the students, I had lots of students where I thought, oh, this is going to be difficult, like mature age students, and they just took to it like a duck to water. And then others, young ones, where I thought, oh, they should just pick it up, really struggling with it. So everyone's different, but Martin always runs the introduction, tells them what to do. And because we always have the tech support, we don't have that stress as educators that we have to troubleshoot the technology. And that really takes the pressure off. I think that is a really important message. If you do it by yourself, it's hard. You have to, have the two different expertises. That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. You being able to concentrate on the learning and teaching objectives and so on. And let the rest be handled by us. Yeah. It's a good combination, I think.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's important, very important, actually. It actually leads us to the second question about there being a technology person on site to address any issues during class times.
Yeah.
Do you have any other comments regarding that aspect?
Yeah, I think the model that we've got currently, where I'm full-time staff member, obviously, and sort of overseeing all of the labs and the different programs and so on, but then having that part-time, a pool of part-time students that we can call in when needed. For bigger sessions, even get a couple of them in a session and so on to help. That flexibility works quite well and obviously helps students on campus. Yeah. So it's quite beneficial all round, really.
But also, people sometimes think, oh yeah, we just buy some headsets, we put the software on it, and we're going to run it. That's not going to work. So you really have to, you have to have the bandwidth. That's an important thing. You have to have some sort of setup where it can work. Like, you have to have some computers so they can share, they can stream or cast to the monitors. The other thing is also that people sometimes forget, but setting up the session does take some time. Even if you have a dedicated lab, you still have to switch them all on. You have to get them ready with all the software running already, casting already, so that the students can just come in and get started. And that does take a long time. So it is time intense. It takes a lot of things that we do probably in our own time because we're passionate about it. So, because, that's the other thing. The uni goes, yep, that's fantastic. But, getting the support is not always that easy. So, you constantly have to negotiate that as well. And you have to be passionate about it to get it all happening, particularly if you have large numbers of students. That is a challenge.
And in some ways we make it harder for ourselves because of setting up the PCs to cast the vision from the headsets to the PC. Otherwise you could just power on the headset, launch the app, and away you go. But we go that extra step to have the headsets casting to the PCs. So we do have to log into the PCs, launch the web browser and the casting bookmark and so on. And so it does mean that timing, that setup time, we factor in an hour's setup before each session as a result. But it does result in that richer, more interactive session that I think makes it well worthwhile, that extra bit of effort, I guess.
Yeah.
That's good. That's completely understandable. So we have one last question from Heidi. What are your thoughts on how this can be used as an undergraduate introductory anatomy and physiology course who only have 30 minutes for this type of event?
Only 30 minutes for per week, or like on the whole they would do a 30-minute session on VR? Is that the question?
I presume about 30 minutes for the session, yes.
It is a bit tricky because you do take a bit of time for the students to learn how to use the hardware. If you have students who've already used VR, it's probably okay. You could do a 30-minute session. In this instance, if you don't have that, what I would recommend is that you actually do what Martin was doing. So you cast it to a big screen and you basically have the lecturer explaining things and showing it to the students that way. And then if you have...
More of a show and tell.
More of a show and tell,
rather than hands-on.
Yeah. If you want the hands-on, you do need to have a bit more time, particularly for them to learn it. Once they've learned it, subsequently, yes, you can do a 30-minute session. It's not a problem. But if they haven't learned it yet, that's a bit of a challenge, 30 minutes.
And it depends a bit how you're structuring the session as well. So if you're working with students in pairs, which we do a great deal of, so one student wears the headset, the other watches on the big screen and works through the worksheet. And then they swap over and the other person has a go. That gives them that little break of using it, and it allows them to interact more with each other as well. But it also allows them to work through that course material.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes you do just want to let them go for it and just play and go into areas of interest. Other times, when you've got a structured, set of learning objectives that you're wanting them to follow, that's going to take longer.
Yeah.
But we have some courses where they have like 3-hour sessions and the VR is just little bits inserted throughout. And they, as they're working through their project or their worksheets and so on, they'll be doing other learning skills and scenarios.
I would just encourage you to trial and see what happens and get some feedback from the students.
That's brilliant. Thank you for your question, Heidi. Next, we're going to move on to a certain Hasnain Baloch, who asks, are your sessions self-directed or is it part of the curriculum?
Part of the curriculum. Self-directed, I found, doesn't work very well. The more structure you provide, the better the experience is and the better the outcomes are. If you just let them go, it's not very productive. It can be fun for a starting thing where you might give them, a bit of time to play, but if you really want them to get something out of it, you have to structure it.
You will get some students who are very self-directed and they'll dive right into areas that really interest themselves, and you can't kick them out at the end. And they'll come up and ask, can I come in during the week and do some more on this? But then you'll have others who just have a bit of a cursory play and then, get bored.
Or don't know what to do with it.
That's right.
Yeah,
so you do need to address all those different personality types, really.
And that sometimes depends on your cohort or what type of course you have. I guess with medical students, it might be a little bit different compared to nursing students, depending on, if they're more used to self-directed learning. Yeah, it depends on your students. But my experience is the structure produces a better outcome.
Yeah, we do have the example of our exercise science students using the 3D Organon for their courses.
Yeah.
And the difference in the cohort is quite intriguing. Maybe I'll pull up the slide about that. Was it here, I think?
Yeah.
Oops, and let's just share the screen. And there we go. Whoops.
Yeah, so we ran a little pilot with the exercise science students. Now, it's a bit difficult to compare because there was only 28 of them, as opposed to, more than 400 from the nursing cohort. But you can see the differences already. So nursing, like I said, it's even worse. It's only 15% male. Whereas in exercise science, you've got 61% are males. And you can also see that in nursing, very few students have ever used a, this is actually the wrong way around, sorry. In exercise science, only 9% have never used VR, and in nursing, 76% have only used it once or never. Sorry, that was the wrong way around. Learning satisfaction was high in both cohorts. Interestingly enough, the exercise science students were a bit more blasé about it, I guess because they had more VR experience. But when it came to immersion and presence, it was quite interesting to see that the nursing students felt a lot more immersed and present in the VR, in the Organon application than the exercise science students. That's a Likert scale, so plus and minus 3, and in the middle is the 0. So being there means if you say +1, that means yes, you feel, you agree, and then it's like strongly agree, or what was the next one? Anyway, 3 is the highest, whereas the minus is you disagree. So yeah, there's a slight difference how they perceive the use of VR. So yeah, it really depends on your cohort. And again, try it out and ask your students.
Yeah, and exercise science are the ones who this semester now have had weekly, those weekly 3-hour sessions with the 3D Organon inserted throughout, versus in nursing, which would typically have, was it 1 hour? Typically?
Yeah, we usually did 1 hour, yeah.
And then with those student pairs and so on.
Yeah.
So slightly different ways of handling it all.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you for clarifying that as well. We have one last question from an attendee who says, thank you for the presentation. Is the lab available for students to use for personal use / studying time?
No, not at this stage. We would like to have that, but at this stage we can't do it. And also the lab is booked. Well, I mean, to start off, the equipment is very expensive, so you wouldn't want students in here by themselves. There's too much equipment here. But also the lab's booked all the time, so we can't do that at the moment. That's why I said if we got a new building and my wish list gets fulfilled, I would like to have special spaces with 3 or 4 headsets where students can just book in and do some practice. But that would be ideal.
In some of our other disciplines, we do have a bit of an arrangement where, particularly for some of the postgrad students using some of the VR apps, they can book the room and I set them up on a more ad hoc basis. But it's certainly not just, walk in, unless I happen to be in the lab and they walk past and knock on the door and I can get them up and running. But yeah, it's a bit more tricky for that kind of open access scenario.
Well, that was a truly insightful and wonderful experience. Thank you very much for your questions and answers. To conclude our webinar, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us for today's inspiring session. A big thank you again, once again, to Martin Hill and Barbara Loessl for sharing their valuable insights and demonstrating how virtual reality is shaping the future of nursing education. Our dedicated team at 3D Organon looks forward to continue innovating and developing AI-driven technologies that bring even more realism and interactivity to medical education. For everyone who is attending, please stay tuned and follow us for more updates on our upcoming webinars. This session recording will be available soon on our official YouTube channel, and you will also receive your certificate of attendance via email. We are incredibly excited to continue making medical education more immersive, engaging, and accessible for learners everywhere. So thank you all once again, and we will see you at the next webinar.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much.